Always a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for the view at WeGotEd.com, RingOfFireRadio.com, and also RawStory.com. Jonathan Alter, author, MSNBC political analyst, award-winning journalist, and columnist for the Daily Beast, joins us. Jonathan, good to have you on.
Great to be here, Ed.
I want our listeners and viewers to hear your take on why Congress can't get anything done on any kind of firearm measures or gun measures in this country. In the wake of San Bernardino, mass shooting number 355 this year, why can't Congress move on this? What's the problem? Because
they're owned lock, stock, and barrel by the NRA. You know, it's not a lot more complicated than that. And the NRA has had its mitts into both Democrats and Republicans in recent decades, but in recent years they've had more success on the Republican side. The Republicans now control both chambers, so even really common sense gun safety ideas are going nowhere. But I think we're about to see a test of just how crazy this is. The president mentioned this the other day after San Bernardino. You know, people who are on what are called no-fly lists, who are security risks for flying planes into buildings, obvious terrorist risks, even if they haven't been arrested for terrorism, but are considered to be risky, they can go into a gun store and legally buy a gun. In other words, you can't get on a plane, but you can buy a gun. That is truly insane. And I think that what needs to happen and might happen is that the Republicans who go along with that idea have to decide whether their support for guns trumps their opposition to terrorism.
Jonathan,
if they really want to say that their gun ideas are more important than stopping terrorists, I'd like to see them out in public having to defend that over and over again.
Jonathan, politically, do the Democrats need to become more vocal about this in blaming Republicans? And it's old-style politics, I know, and vilifying the other side, but the fact is the fact that we can't get anything done on gun violence in America, any measures at all, because of the Republicans. And I don't hear the Democrats laying the straight talk out there like that and putting the onus on the majority in the House and talking about the filibusters in the Senate. What do you? Of course, it wouldn't be now because they have the majority. What about that?
Well, I mean, they have been stepping up their rhetoric on guns. So Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were out there in the immediate aftermath of San Bernardino talking about this. It used to be that politicians would wait until after the funerals, and they would, be worried about politicizing the issue too quickly. Now both sides go right to the politics.
You have to. That's how you get change.
Immediate aftermath. Yeah. So Hillary is doing that, but I agree with you that she's not doing it quite a pointed enough way. I think one of the things that has kept it from being turned into more of a partisan issue is that, for instance, on the background check vote in the wake of the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary in 2013, there were a certain number of Democratic votes that prevented that from becoming law. So Democrats from rural areas, and I think you know more about this than I do, Ed, have not been great on this issue. But they're going to have to decide that they're willing to take on the gun nuts in their states, and I think that they can do so successfully on issues like access of people on no-fly lists to guns. I mean, you have to be kind of deranged to believe that somebody who is a risk for being a terrorist should be able to go in and buy a gun.
Well, the president keeps pointing out how other countries don't have this problem. Well, the other countries have laws that we don't have. and they have a much safer society. But we, of course, are stuck on this lobbying structure that it's not about gun rights. It's about whether these guys are going to get reelected or not. It's about whether they're going to become a political target and have to go home and face an ad saying that they're anti-American and they're gun grabbers and that they want to take away their rights and they're against freedom. That's the crap that they would face unless they walk in lockstep with the NRA.
Ed, what worked for you? Correct me if I'm wrong, but some years ago you underwent a little bit of a change of heart on these issues. What worked for you in convincing you that the NRA was wrong on certain issues?
Well, I think we all have to come to a personal awareness of what we believe in. I've never owned a pistol in my life. I've never fired a pistol in my life. I have no desire to do that. I'm going pheasant hunting this weekend with a bunch of my friends in western North Dakota, where I've got a 12-gauge shotgun. I've got a 10-gauge shotgun for goose hunting that I haven't fired in 15 years. I mean, but I think that society changes. Social mores change. Our attitudes towards drunk driving 30 years ago were a hell of a lot different than what they are right now. Our attitudes towards gun ownership and usage and access are a lot different today than what they were 30 years ago. Society moves forward. And I think that what moved me was common sense. A background check will not impede on my rights. They can background check Ed Schultz all day, and they can do whatever they want. It will not impede on what I'm going to do this weekend for recreation. And I think that's common sense. And I think that I would not view an extensive background check as intrusion. I would view it as a safety measure to help the country curb what is a real social problem right now. It's a social problem. And I also find it unbelievably inconsistent that now Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, who's in a position to do something about it, is saying that, well, it's a mental illness issue and we got to address that, yet he votes down Obamacare. He wants to get rid of Obamacare, but he has nothing to replace it with. You're going to tell me that 17 million people in this country who are not going to have health care if you get the Republican way wouldn't be an at-risk owner of a firearm? Of course they would. So they speak out of both sides of their mouth. But in answer to your question, I think that the country has to have a re-examination of what is common sense, what is the issue, and let's deal with it. If you get the NRA out of the way, if you get the lobbyists out of the way, I think you're going to get the will of the people.
Yeah, a lot of NRA members think that the organization they belong to is out of line because they remember that 20 years ago, in the 90s, background checks were the NRA's position. They were for instant background checks. People forget this. They didn't want a 5-day waiting period, but they were happy when the technology came along to have instant background checks. Now that technology exists, and they don't want to use it.
Yeah,
and they're reversing the position that they used to ascribe to. And the gun show loophole is totally indefensible.
Yeah.
So
I've never purchased a gun at a gun show in my life. I think I've been to one gun show, and I just was kind of bored with it. I don't have any use for it. I don't, and I'm not a gun collector. Never have been. Never will be. I think there are some basic
collectors. They can be gun collectors and go to gun shows. They just have to, at the gun shows, they just have to be set up to do the instant background check, so they can't sell guns. I mean, there's no reason they should be exempt.
I feel personally, Jonathan, that if I go buy a pistol, then I become part of the problem. That's where I am personally right now. Mm-hmm. I don't think I have protection? Yeah, I do. I got my shotguns, my hunting rifles. They're not, at my bedside. But I got a couple of dogs that bark pretty good. I just think it's just such a social issue right now, such a social problem right now that we're inept if we sit here silent and not force our elected officials to do something about it. They need that. We're at a point where those who don't want to do anything, they need to defend themselves beyond the Constitution. They need to address the social problem. And if they think mental illness is the way to go, then they need to reconcile where they stand on health care in this country.
Well, I'm okay with them passing a bill on mental health. Let's just get it through and then deal with the other issues. I don't think Democrats are right to stop that. They should. If Paul Ryan wants to pass a lot of new funding for mental health, people need it. Let's just get it done and then return to the gun debate. But the idea that we're going to hold up the mental health bill until they cry uncle on guns, that's just a way to not get a mental health bill.
Yeah.
So, I'm okay with them moving forward on Ryan's bill. I just think that they need now to surface this issue of of terrorism. I mean, at a minimum, let's deal with that. And we have to break the stranglehold of the NRA on a couple of easier issues first, before we can build a movement to return sanity. And the first one, given the climate on terrorism, is just to end this ridiculous situation where guys who are on a no-fly list, who are in danger of killing us all, can go in and buy a gun with no problem. That is truly insane.
Jonathan Alter, always great to visit, always a great conversation. I appreciate your time. Have a great one, my friend. Thanks.
Take care.
You bet. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary, brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team. Have a great weekend. We're back Monday.